the logical singularity. We begin at the absolute periphery of rational thought. Before us lies a linguistic anomaly, a statement that defines itself as false. In formal logic, this is a crisis of self-reference. We must treat this not merely as a riddle, but as a systemic functional failure. The sentence, "I am lying," is not just text. It is a logical singularity. When we attempt to assign a truth value, we trigger an infinite recursive iteration. If the statement is true, it must, by its own definition, be false. If it is false, then the claim must necessarily be true. This state of oscillation is the starting point of our inquiry. We are observing the collapse of classical binary logic, which is built upon the principle of the excluded middle. In such a framework, there is no permissible space between true and false. Yet, it is precisely within this vacuum, this structural gap between the poles, that the paradoxical state manifests. We are abandoning the naive expectation that language can map reality without contradiction. We are examining the mechanics of its failure, the mechanics of recursion. Focus your attention on the mechanics of the self-negation. The paradox arises because the sentence acts as both the subject and the predicate of its own judgment. When a statement points back to itself, it creates a loop that escapes the hierarchical order of language. In the Tarskian hierarchy, a language cannot contain its own truth predicate without generating these contradictions. By ignoring this distinction, we have effectively created a logical virus. The ink on this page represents a recursive function that never resolves. It lacks a base case to terminate the loop. We often assume that clarity is a result of precise definition, but here precision is the very cause of the failure. The more we refine the definition of the sentence, the more violently it rejects its own validity. We are witnessing a cognitive dissonance where the rules of communication do not merely bend, they shatter. We are not looking at a statement. We are looking at the collapse of the binary. We are taught that the world is composed of distinct propositions, true or false, existent or non-existent. This is the cornerstone of classical computation and classical philosophy. However, this split-screen visualization forces us to confront the instability of that division. If we assign the label truth to one side and falsehood to the other, we assume an objective vantage point that does not exist. The paradox demonstrates that true and false are not fixed properties inherent in a statement. They are functions of a system. If the system itself is corrupted, the binary collapses. We are currently observing a total erosion of the boundary. The moment a statement can be both, the distinction between the two sides loses its empirical value. This isn't a breakdown of the subject matter. It is a breakdown of the framework of truth itself. When the categories fail, we are left with a raw, undifferentiated reality that refuses to be sliced into logical portions. The burden of the ancients. The thinkers of the past were the first to collide with these intellectual walls. Eubulides of Miletus, the architect of the Epimenides paradox, understood that this was not a trivial amusement. He recognized that language is a tool constructed by human beings, and like all tools, it has a load-bearing limit. When the ancients contemplated this abyss, they were not looking for a psychological release. They were testing the structural integrity of their own cognition. They realize that if a system is consistent, it cannot prove its own consistency. That is the lesson the bust before you represents. It is the stoic observation of a broken logic. The marble represents the attempt to solidify reason, while the paradox represents the fluid, shifting nature of truth that marble cannot contain. We are merely the latest in a long line of observers attempting to reconcile the fact that our most fundamental tools for describing reality are inherently designed to fail under extreme logical pressure. The architecture of the loop, consider the geometry of this entanglement. An infinite knot serves as the visual representation of the liar paradox because it possesses no endpoint. In mathematics, such loops are common in topology, but in logic they are catastrophic. Every attempt to trace the line leads us back to our origin point, reinforcing the contradiction. This is not a complex problem with a hidden solution. It is a closed topology of thought. The intellect is hardwired to seek the exit of the maze, to find the one truth that resolves the tension. But the knot teaches us a different lesson. The loop is the destination. We are dealing with a non-linear structure that defies the step-by-step nature of human deduction. We must stop trying to untie the knot and start analyzing the tension that holds it together. The tension is the reality. The knot is the only stable form that this paradox can take, proving that some logical constructs do not exist to be solved, but to be inhabited. The shadow of semantic meaning. These ancient characters floating in the dark represent the fundamental disconnect between syntax and semantics. We assign meaning to these symbols, believing that they represent stable objects in the world. But in the context of the paradox, the symbols remain, yet their meaning vanishes. This is the shadow theory of language. The signifier is present, the letters are legible, but the signified the truth is absent. We are looking at the sky of pure abstraction, where concepts hang like distant, dead stars. This illustrates the fragility of semantic mapping. If language can point to things that do not exist, or to conditions that are logically impossible, then language is inherently decoupled from the bedrock of reality. We are navigating a landscape of ghosts. These letters are the building blocks of our thought, yet they are drifting away from our control. They remind us that our entire intellectual history is written in a code that is fundamentally untethered from the world it attempts to describe. The failure of computational logic. Shift your focus to the binary code. We treat zeros and ones as the ultimate foundation of truth. A digital system is the perfection of the truth or false binary. But if you feed a paradoxical statement into a computer, the machine does not find a solution. It hangs. It enters a state of infinite calculation. This proves that even our most advanced, cold, and calculated systems are vulnerable to the same fundamental flaws as ancient Greek logic. The glitch effect is not a malfunction. It is the truth of the system being exposed. The binary code breaks because it is forced to compute the uncomputable. We are seeing the death of the machine's certainty. This is the moment where computation becomes philosophy. When the code loses its ability to distinguish between its states, the machine loses its identity. We are forced to admit that our digital world, with all its power, is built upon the same quicksand as the handwritten sentence we began with. A deconstruction of systems. We have treated logic as a solid, monolithic structure, a tower built of books and axioms designed to separate us from the void. But as the structure falls, we realize the books were never solid. They were heavy, dense collections of assumptions. The collapse is not a destruction. It is a clarification. By watching these systems drift apart, we are actually performing an act of intellectual hygiene. We are shedding the weight of false certainty. Each book represented a dogma, a rigid adherence to a rule that claimed to be absolute. Now that they are scattered, we can see the space they occupied was never filled with truth, but with the illusion of it. This falling motion is the movement of a mind freeing itself from the burden of artificial constraints. We are not losing knowledge. We are losing the comfort of a lie. The falling books and the end of our reliance on external structures to define the limits of what is possible. The anchor of inquiry. The question mark is perhaps the most dangerous symbol in the history of human thought. It is an anchor, a hook that keeps us tethered to the surface of the problem. We treat the question as an obligation to find an answer, turning every encounter with the unknown into a demand for resolution. But notice the light. It is conceptual, intangible. It has no mass. We have been treating a shadow, the question, as if it were a physical object we had to carry. This is the pivot point of our analysis. We recognize that the question is not a request for information. It is a manifestation of our own desire to control the unknown. If we accept the question mark as a permanent absence of resolution, we are now in the space where the logic has dissolved. This is the most critical stage of our deconstruction. There is a deep, resonant quality to this emptiness. We are used to thinking that an absence of information is a failure, but here the absence of an answer is the highest form of clarity. When we stop demanding that the paradox be resolved, we are finally able to see the void for what it is, a neutral, expansive, and indifferent reality. It does not care about our logic, our books, or our machines. It simply exists. The paradox was a localized disturbance in our mental activity. Now that we have ceased the activity, the disturbance has vanished. This is not meditation. It is the brutal, clear realization that the universe does not require a logical justification to exist. We have been trying to impose our own internal structure onto an external void that is utterly indifferent to our cognitive architectures. The evaporation of control. Observe the process of dissolution. This represents the erosion of the ego's need to define, classify, and master the environment. Every thought we have is a form of control, a way of attempting to freeze the world in place so we can study it. But the paradox shows us that the world is inherently fluid and contradictory. The particles drifting into darkness are our own concepts, our own definitions, and our own axioms, all breaking down into their constituent parts. This is a highly analytical process of reduction. We are stripping away the layers of cognitive armor we have spent our lives building. We are moving from a state of complex, erroneous construction to a state of simple, accurate observation. We are not becoming one with the universe. We are becoming honest about our own limitations. We are observing the evaporation of our own ambition to be the masters of logical truth. It is a necessary shedding of our intellectual skin. The final acceptance. We end not with a solution, but with the realization that the search itself was the error. We reach out toward the source of the contradiction, not to grasp it, but to acknowledge its role in defining the boundary of our reality. The paradox is the final gatekeeper of our rational house. It stands at the edge, forcing us to choose between an endless, circular search for a resolution that doesn't exist, or a silent intellectual acceptance of the mystery. We reach for the light and we let it dissolve, because we now understand that the light was never the answer, it was the warning sign. We have successfully deconstructed the trap, and we stand now in the quiet, expansive reality that remains. We do not need the answer. We only need to exist within the paradox, fully aware, fully present, and fully liberated from the desperate, exhausting need